All right, here's your homework on the Pythagorean theorem and being able to classify a triangle as obtuse, acute, or a right triangle. Okay, so we want to find the missing side. So identify the hypotenuse, that's x, and then the legs, the order doesn't matter, and I square and add them together. To get x by itself, we square root, and then we use a calculator like Desmos to calculate this for us. So I'm going to go square root, and then 10 squared plus 7 squared. And that's 12.2. All right, let's try it again. Identify the hypotenuse, the longest side, that's 21. And then the other two sides, the order doesn't matter. And I want to get x by itself. So I subtract, and then I square root. And that's what I'm going to put in the calculator and see what the answer is. So it's the square root of 21 squared minus 19 squared. And that's about 8.9. Number 3. Again, identify the hypotenuse, that's 27. And then the two other sides, we square and add, and order doesn't matter. To get x squared by itself, I subtract. And then the last step is I square root, and then use my calculator. So that's what I'm going to put in the calculator. Oops, I'll get rid of this. That's 27 squared. Subtract 16 squared. 21.7. Again, it's best when you do it first. So can you try to set this up and solve for x? Press pause. So the hypotenuse is x. The other two sides, 12.8, the calculator doesn't care, plus 5.3. And that's what I'm going to type in. Oh, to get x by itself, we square root this. Then we put it in our calculator. Again, I'm going to use Desmos. You can get the app on your phone for free, or just go to desmos.com, click on the calculator. All right, so square root, and we have 12.8 squared plus 5.3 squared. So the answer is 13.9 if I round it. Okay, in number 5, we have a right triangle and a right triangle making a full one. So anyways, half of this is 9, so that's what I'm going to use. So if I want to solve for x, that's the hypotenuse. Half of 18, that's 9. And the height of it is 20, and that's what I'm going to solve for. So again, this is 9 and this is 9. So I use 9 and 20 to find x, square root, and then solve it. So again, use a calculator. And you get 21.9. Number 6. That's a trapezoid. So I want to find this width here. These are isosceles trapezoids. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this right here, and that's going to help me find what x is. So I'm going to find this length. I see a right triangle right here, and I know this is 19, this is 19 because of the same length. So the hypotenuse is 19, and that's equal to y squared plus 17 squared. Then to get y by itself, we subtract. And then the last step is we square root. And then use your calculator. So again, I'm going to go 19 squared subtract 17 squared. So that's 8.5. Then I'm going to think a little. If this is 8.5, this is also 8.5. So I want to know what x is. So if I go 31 subtract 8.5 on one side, subtract 8.5 on the other side, that is what x is going to equal. So I'm going to come back here and subtract, and get my answer. So again, if I go 31 subtract 8.5 and subtract another 8.5, then what I'm left with is 14. All right, number 7, we're going to set up, we have 16. I'm going to find this first. So I'm going to call that A. So this is the hypotenuse. So it's 22 squared is equal to A squared plus 16 squared. We're going to subtract, and then I'm going to square root. So that's what I'm going to put in the calculator. The square root of, oops, get rid of this. The square root of 22 squared subtract 16 squared. That's 15.1. Then, now that I know that's 15.1, I can do a little bit of math here. 44 take away 16 is 28 on the other side, so they add up to 44. And now I can then set up to solve for x here. So x again is the hypotenuse. We just found A to be 15.1. That's 28. And then that's what I'm going to solve for using my calculator. And I get 31.8. And that's what I was looking for. All right, Scott is using a 12-foot ramp to help load furniture to the back of a moving truck. If the back of the truck is 3.5 feet from the ground. So let's pretend that this is a great drawing of a truck. Not a great truck, a little door. And we have a ramp going to that. That ramp obviously is a right triangle. The ramp itself is 12 feet. And the height going up is 3.5. And then the question is, what's the horizontal distance right here that I need to find? So the hypotenuse is 12. And then I'm looking for x and 3.5. Those are my legs. So to get x by itself, I subtract. And then I square root. And then I use a calculator to know what that distance is. So it's the square root of 12 squared, subtract 3.5 squared. And I get 11.5. And it's 11.5 feet. All right, turn your homework sheet to the other side. Now the converse, right? Oh no, there's some more questions here. I like questions. I like stories. A 35-foot wire is secured from the top of a flagpole. I'm really good at drawing this kind of stuff. Look at that flag right there. There's my flag. Pretty good, right? There's my ground. And I know this is 35 feet. And there's a wire securing it to the ground. There's my wire and my triangle. If the stake is 14 feet from the base, so this is 14 feet here, it says how tall is the flag? Oh, the wire is 35 feet. Be a good reader. How tall is the flagpole? So I don't know that. So I know the wire is 35, and this side here where it's staked in is 14. So 35 is my hypotenuse, and then the other two sides, the order doesn't matter. Subtract 14 squared, and then square root. So that's what I'm square rooting. Use your calculator. So the square root of 35 squared, subtract 14 squared. About 32.1. And that's how tall the flagpole is. 10. If the diagonal of a square, so let's draw a square, not a great square, but there it is. If the diagonal is 11.3, what is the perimeter? Well, I need to know this, right? So, a square means all the sides are the same length. So I'm just going to call one length x. And that means that's x. There's my right triangle. So the hypotenuse is there. But I have x squared and then another x squared I'm going to add up. So together that's 2x squared. So I'm going to take and I divide by 2. And then the last step is I square root this. All right, so I divide by 2 and then square root. I'm going to use my calculator. Oh, my head's in the way again. All right, so I square root, and it's 11.3 squared divided by 2. Oh, it's about 8. Now, that's not my final answer, because the question is perimeter. So perimeter means you add all the sides. So how many sides are there to a square? Obviously 4. You multiply it by 8. And you get the perimeter. So the perimeter is 32 meters. All right. These questions have to do with triangles and whether it's an obtuse triangle, an acute triangle, or a right triangle. Just so you know, again, that's an acute. That's obtuse. And then a right triangle. Now, acute means all the angles are less than 90. Obtuse means one angle is bigger than 90. And right means one angle is exactly 90. First, I add the two smaller sides. It's bigger than 21. So, I know it's a triangle. And then I'm going to take the largest side and square it. I'm just going to do that. You do it in your calculator too. I'm going to square it and I get 441. Then I'm going to take 15 squared plus 16 squared with my calculator. Same thing, 15 squared plus 16 squared. And I get 41. Because the legs are bigger, it's an acute. If the hypotenuse was bigger, then it would be obtuse, and if they're equal to each other, it's a right. Number 12, they add up to, and it's more than 41. So 20 plus 23 is bigger. So it's a triangle. Next, take the biggest side and square it. So again, I just have my calculator on the side. You use your calculator. So 41 squared is 1,681. And then I'm going to go 20 squared plus 23 squared to see what that equals. So 20 squared plus 23 squared. That's 929. That means the hypotenuse squared is bigger, so that means it's obtuse. That's how we roll. 13. 10 plus 24 is bigger than 26. So it is a triangle. Take the biggest side and square it. That's 676. Then take 10 squared plus 24 squared and see what that equals. So 10 squared plus 24 squared, 676. They're equal to each other. That means it's a right triangle. That's how it works. All right, 6 plus 13 is 19. That's smaller. That means this is not a triangle. That's the first thing we test for. 3 plus 16 is 19. It is a triangle. And then I take the biggest side and I square it. Oops, try that again. It's 289. Then I take the other two sides, I square and add them. So that's 16 squared. That's 256 plus 3 squared, which is 9. What is that together? 265. So the legs, or the hypotenuse is bigger, so it's an obtuse triangle. All right, last one. These add up and are bigger than 32. Take the biggest side, 32, and square it. That number is 1024. Take the smaller side, square, and add them together. And see what answer that is. Try that again. 24 squared plus 29 squared. That's 1,417. This one's bigger. When the legs squared together are bigger, it is acute. And you finished your homework. All right, Mr. G Math over and out. I hope that helped. Good luck on the quiz.